Moving on, again, kind of a potpourri of questions here was, how do I determine if my loved one, whether parent or significant other, is still safe to live alone? And ultimately, it all comes down again to that risk tolerance, safety, function, and support system that they have. Do they have close neighbors? Do you have cameras in the home? Do you have an adult who can still manage a cell phone? Talking about falls, are they able to take their own medications? Are they feeding themselves reliable? Are they isolating themselves and they wouldn't be able to call for help? Home safety assessments can really be helpful. Care management can be helpful. Ultimately, I think, again, talking about the safety and the risk tolerance, kind of the early stage where we're thinking we need a bit more help, is, is the food in the fridge spoiled? Are they starting to really clutter the home and they're not going to be able to get out in the event of a fire? Are there, packs, stacks and stacks of unopened mail and bills that are really gathering and are going to create a financial crisis that's going to need to be unraveled later? Are they keeping themselves clean and dry? I think a lot of times, with poor pericare, you know, our elderly females are getting lots of urinary tract infections and other sorts of problems. Is dad still driving? Those types of things in terms of safety and the safety of others. And when those things really start falling apart, kind of more of that, middle and late stage, where then we're talking about, is the is mom just mom dad, dad's killing mom because dad needs all of this help and he's not able to do anything, or is there physical assault that's happening? Just last week in the hospital, I had a gentleman who was described as the son I was talking to. He was my hero. He was just the most amazing guy. Everyone loves him. He was such a kind gentleman, and he is unfortunately getting a pretty advanced stage of what seems to be Alzheimer's dementia. And he in the last year has physically assaulted his wife on multiple occasions, thinking like he was scared. He was trying to
What?
escape. People are trying to hold him back.
I've learned meeting
Um,
on even in it, Heather.
in the hospital, he's also punching caregivers and putting people in headlocks and all these things. And he was never the type of person to act or do those things. And so just really just identifying, is the person taking care of them safe? Are they safe? Just kind of all those things. Future living arrangements, this is something really important, I think, to talk about in our healthcare documents, is like, where do I want to live? Where do I want to be? I think most people want to stay at home as long as they can. In fact, many think they're going to be able to stay home for the rest of their lives. But the reality is that many people are not prepared for this. The thing I'm always repeating is that your health insurance does not want to pay your mortgage and it doesn't want to buy your groceries. The thing that will pay your mortgage ultimately, right, is long-term care insurance, or if you have Medicaid, or if you have the VA as a secondary, and you have a service-connected condition. But other than those few things, you got to live with family, or you got to have a boatload of money, or you've planned really well. Medicaid, obviously, with the Miller Trust and some things you can leverage, but it's really difficult, and people are just heartbroken when I share with them the costs that these things carry in terms of how much does it cost to live in an assisted living. I have not really seen lately anything less than 4,000 a month, and that's your basic, kind of run down, multiple people in a room type of situation. And then, personal care services, people think I'm just going to hire someone, they're going to come in, and you're talking about minimum, generally speaking, unless you find someone who you're paying under the table, you're talking $30 an hour. If you do the math real quick, if you need 24/7 care, 30 times 24 times 30, that number gets up in the mid 20,000 really quickly. And then if they need skilled nursing care, they need an actual nurse there to be there kind of all the time, and they have to live in a skilled nursing facility versus an assisted living where they're kind of doing the bare bones. You're looking upwards of $8,000 to $12,000 a month. And so I don't know very many people, at least who are born and raised here in Idaho, who kind of didn't really work their butts off to make and gather a lot of resources, or from out of state, one of those wealthier places where they come with kind of a boatload of money. It's really difficult.